do battle here today as we say hello and welcome in a fantastic evening, or rather afternoon for football with Alfonso Barber. I'm Tiffany Green, and look, this is a Florida A&M team that had the opportunity to be in the driver's seat, not only to win the MEAC and go on to the Celebration Bowl. They were tripped up a little bit last week. How do they come into today's matchup?
Well, earlier in the press conference earlier this week, Willie Simmons said that this team has the opportunity this week to get back to their true identity. What that means is they can't underestimate South Carolina State. They have to realize that they're 3-2 in their conference, and they're a dangerous team. And on top of that, it's senior day, so mothers and fathers are in the stands, and he wants to deliver them a win today.
16 seniors in total for the Rattlers. Now, when you're looking at this matchup, it really comes down to the quarterbacks.
Ryan Stanley is coming off of a somewhat subpar performance. He struggled with a little back stiffness, but outside of that, which Willie Simmons really isn't concerned with, it's where his mind is. And then on the other side, Tyrese Nick, he's a true dual-threat quarterback who can really hurt you on the ground, but if the Rattler defense can stop him there, they have a good opportunity to stifle this offense.
A wonderful opportunity for sure for the Rattlers, who are looking for this to be a tune-up game as they go into next weekend for the Florida Classic. But first things first, they have to take care of business here today against the South Carolina State Bulldogs. It's going to be a great one here from Bragg Memorial Stadium. Florida A&M coming in at 6-3 on the season, 5-1 in the conference, currently atop the standings in the MEAC. We'll see more from the Rattlers on the field after the break.
South Carolina State will receive at this end zone.
Get that feeling again with the Honda CR-V during Happy Honda Days.
Hooray!
Get something you'll love during Happy Honda Days.
Welcome back into Bragg Memorial Stadium as Florida A&M will get things started. Chris Fadul, who has been so great on special teams this season, will kick things off. The sophomore out of Wesley Chapel.
Great combo of kickers for the Rattlers on this season, producing for Willie Simmons in this team. And this one is deep into the end zone, and he'll field it for a touchback.
Well, this is a first chance we'll get an opportunity to see that South Carolina State offense with, you said, Tyrese Nick, who has really turned things around this season. 7 quarterbacks coming into the fall camp for the Bulldogs. Buddy Pugh had a chance to really sift through and see what they were working with. They decided to go with Nick, and Nick thus far, a sophomore out of Johnston, South Carolina, has emerged as the leader. Quite honestly, he says, this team goes as he grows, and he's grown into a leader.
On the season, he has a completion rate of 50%. He's rushed 155 times for 656 yards, and
they keep it on the ground, and we'll see Omar Cummings. Cummings, a freshman who had a terrific week against Howard a couple weeks back, gained 100-plus yards, and that was his first 100-yarder of the season. So solid pickup on first down.
Almost reached it last week as well with 95. That's we see a flag there, but 12 rushes for 95 yards and a touchdown last week as well.
Offside. Defense, number 93. That 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
Demontre Moore, the guilty party for Florida A&M up front, the nose guard for the Rattlers. And so that gives the Bulldogs a fresh set of downs.
And that's something that this Rattler defense and Rattler team in general has struggled with this entire season, is penalties.
On the snap, Nick the handoff. They've got a bevy of running backs for South Carolina State. On the carry there is Farika Greer, the redshirt freshman out of South Carolina. 75 yards in total on the season to go along with a trio of touchdowns.
And I'm really excited to see how this matchup goes in the running game against this front four of the Rattlers.
quickly, and Nick calls his own number, and Tyrese Nick was brought down just across midfield, but there's penalty marker on the field. That could very well come back.
See what it is. We did see a hit on the running back and a gas from the crowd. That's the assignment football that Willie Simmons was talking about. He did his job.
It's in the area of a hold, as we mentioned, that could come back, or a block in the back.
Holding. Offense, number 48. That 10-yard penalty will be enforced from the previous spot. Still, second down.
Well, I believe that's a physical representation of 1 step forward and 2 steps back there, too.
Absolutely, Alfonso. And look, that negates a solid run right there to get them across midfield. Instead, they go backwards, and the ball is placed at the 30-yard line.
Let's see if this stifles the drive or if they can come up with a big play here.
2nd and 18. Nick once more, but he's tripped up in the middle by Antonio Miller, the first to get him down. Miller, the senior out of Lakeland, Florida, recording his 52nd tackle of the season.
And Antonio Miller, Josh Crutchfield, all of these are guys that you can expect to hear a lot of today.
3rd and long for the Bulldogs. Nick looks over to the sideline, gets the call from the OC, Bennett Swigert. Nick drops back, feels the pressure, rolls out the pocket, and over a couple of defenders, and what a grab by Quan Caldwell.
Had the ball in a terrible position. We thought it was going to be an interception or definitely a incompletion, and just squeezed it in there. Way down the field is big number 91 in coverage, Joshua Crutchfield. And that's a completion there.
And Alfonso, you said it just in the open about the fact that this is a dual threat quarterback, and while everyone is holding their breath and waiting to see him run the ball, Tyrese Nick is standing in line to be a 1,000-yard passer as well on the season. This time he just shows off his speed, cutting through the defense and down inside the 20-yard line. And the Bulldogs now in the red zone, knocking on the door.
Well, so far this game, the front four is definitely losing the battle. Only 1 tackle at the line of scrimmage. Other than that, every game or every rush has been for positive yards.
South Carolina State coming at 3-2 in the MEAC this season. They're playing for pride and also an opportunity to perhaps finish as well as 2nd or maybe 3rd in the conference. The handoff, and barely anybody touched Farika Greer. He's in for the score.
And just a gaping hole there. That's not the assignment football that Simmons was looking forward to seeing. And there it is, the first score of the game.
Let me tell you, this South Carolina State offense has been on a roll the last 2 games they've played. You see Greer right there on the replay, and they've scored 30 points in their win against Delaware State, 27 in that W against Howard. Coming off a bye week, they look fresh. And booting through the extra point is Dylan Bredeson. So a 7-0 lead for South Carolina State as they make a statement on their opening possession.
Installation ceremony and the inaugural scholarship gala. Meet us November 8th through 10th and visit FAMUinauguration.com for tickets and details. While you're there, make a donation to support student success. That's FAMUinauguration.com.
Each team starts their journey on separate roads, but they all converge to one road to the championship. There will be revenge and redemption. There'll be an Aggie and Eagle standoff. There'll be Bulldogs and Bears colliding with Tigers and Spartans. Hornets fighting off Bison and Wildcats rattling the Rattlers. The road has twists and turns, and when it ends, one thing is certain. Only one team will claim the title. MEAC champion.
Welcome back to Florida's capital city of Tallahassee. South Carolina State making a statement on their opening possession, drove 75 yards for that touchdown. It was capped off by Fareeq Greer. Where did you see, Alfonso?
I saw an offensive team that looks very confident in what they're doing. They overcame that 10-yard holding penalty in the middle of them stomping down the field, had a big completion in coverage, and then capitalized with some big runs by the quarterback and running back, and just like that, it's 7-zip.
So a first chance to see FAMU.
It's going to be Marcus Williams.
And Williams on the return, still on his feet, going out. Just near the 32-yard line.
Looked like he was trying to make something amazing happen there at the end. Coach is just glad he didn't fumble. And we're set to see Ryan Stanley come on the field for his first drive of the game. And he is just under 2,000 yards on the season, 20 yards away, in fact. So let's see if he can get it here and if this offensive team for Willie Simmons can get it going.
The 6'3" redshirt junior out of Pembroke Pines, Florida. A gunslinger for sure, 5th all-time in career passing yards. And the first play for the Rattlers is a carry.
That's going to be
Deshaun Smith.
Brings up 2nd and 9.
So 2nd and 9 for the Rattlers after that 1-yard gain. They move forward, coming in with the tackle. And Stanley drops back. His first pass of the ball game, and it's complete.
And he's well on his way to passing 2,000 with that right there. Over 10.
So a first down for the Rattlers.
Didn't see any back stiffness in that throw. It's 14, completes the pass. And now we have a man in motion.
Stanley hands it off once again, and tripping up in the backfield is Deshaun Smith. Smith, the true freshman running back out of Brooksville.
And he's averaging just over 6 yards per carry on the season, along with 2 touchdowns. And you mentioned earlier the deep backfield of the Bulldogs. This Rattler team also has a very deep backfield. So Deshaun Smith is just one of many weapons that we'll see today.
Smith and Bishop Bonnet, as you mentioned, one of those other running backs, really supplanted some of the veteran guys on the group. Rolling out to his left, finds his target, and Xavier Smith. Smith near the sticks. And that's good enough for a first down. They move the chains.
Xavier Smith and Chad Hunter do a great job of opening it up for Ryan Stanley and giving him a big place or a big target. And once they get it, they're a danger to break away, and those yards after catch are always in the conversation.
And really, as we've seen all season long, for Ryan Stanley, this team's success is predicated on how well he distributes the ball to his playmakers. Stanley, once again, finding his man across the middle, and nearly his head taken off was George Webb. That pass incomplete.
And that's one you want to see Ryan Stanley lead his receiver a little bit more infield there. As I said earlier, he makes some big throws, and he also has some throws he just lets get away from him from time to time, and I think that was one of them.
Last week, racked up 272 yards, had a couple of TDs, but also tossed some INTs. Now 2nd and 10. And a long throw across the field. Pickup of just about 5. That pass complete to Marcus Williams.
Marcus Williams looks like he's on his way to having a big game. He is another one of those weapons for this Rattler offense.
So now 3rd and 6. And FAMU looking to answer after South Carolina State jumped on the board in their opening drive.
Doesn't like what they see
Stanley finds his man, guns it in there. There's some laundry on the field. At the same time, the pass complete to Doc Lucky.
And that's the redshirt freshman out of Gainesville up here in the rival city in Tallahassee.
Pass interference. Offense, number 89, blocking downfield. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. Still, third down.
David Manigo call for that pass interference penalty.
I'd be interested in seeing that replay. To me, it looked like he was attempting to run his route. Just kind of stopped there. Didn't know whether the ball was coming to him or not. Didn't really make an effort to block anyone.
So that backs up the Rattlers. And now the 36-yard line is the line to gain. What do you draw up here? A dangerous throw as Jalen Evans was converging in on Lucky. That pass incomplete. And now we'll get a chance to see Chris Fadul, one of the most dangerous weapons in all of FCS, leading the nation in punts in terms of yardage per kick.
His motto on the season has been just kicking it, and it just keeps that going. Looking here to pin the Bulldogs in their own 10.
He gets it up. And Traquan DeBose for the fair catch. And that's where South Carolina State will start it at the 19-yard line. Come back with us to Tallahassee.
Drink of Fansville.
Welcome back. The score 7-0. It was the Bulldogs who scored on their opening possession. Now the second offensive set for South Carolina State.
There's some movement up front. And it's still early on in the first.
False start. Offense, number 37. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Still, first down.
Well, we'll see if the Bulldogs can overcome that penalty as they did last penalty. But as I was saying early on in this first quarter, 7:54 left. They already have 7 on the board. They're averaging 16 on the season. And have the opportunity to up that a little bit.
So Nick, brush out of the pocket, and he's got plenty of space. Just open field in front of him. Tyrese Nick going off right now. He's brought down by Antonio Miller.
And great football, great assignment football there. Front four did their jobs just right there. Scrambling vision there by Nick. And then the speed afterwards to break away. Cut in bounds for some more yardage and give his team some well-needed energy.
So now across the 50, and once more, the Bulldogs offense continuing to move as Datron James powering ahead, tackled by number 52 for the Rattlers, Derek Mayweather.
It's going to be his 60th tackle on the season. Fairly short gain there. But on first down, the Bulldogs will take it.
And so thus far, what have you seen out of this South Carolina State offense? What have they been able to do well?
They are controlling the front four, which is something I didn't think I would be saying coming into the game. As they line up with 2 backs in the backfield here.
Farico Greer already has a touchdown run. He's got a nose for the end zone once more, and he's tripped up just about the 14-yard line.
And he stumbled for about 12 extra there. Love to see what he could have done if he would have kept his footing. And, again, just torching this front four.
Caught from behind by Terry Jefferson. Now another first down. Here come the Bulldogs. The pitch out to Greer. Greer just can't handle that pitch. It rolls out of bounds, luckily, for South Carolina State.
And the Rattler defense catching a break there would have been another decent, if not big gain.
The ball was fumbled forward, out of bounds, and returned to the spot of the fumble. Second down.
As the referees explain what was happening there.
That's Rory Bernard and his crew out here today, but again, Bulldogs within striking distance. Nick calling his number all the way. This time, the Rattlers defense is not fooled. Derek Merriweather once again coming up from his linebacker position.
And he looks at his teammates trying to get some energy going. At this point in the game, you can't stop the run. You're starting to feel a little defeated. You need the vets on the team to stand up and say, hey, guys, we're a top defense.
Remember, this is senior day for FAMU. They've got a lot to play for. They can't look ahead. They've got to take care of business and gain some momentum. Big third down coming up for this Rattler defense. Nick standing back in the pocket, looking the pass, flushed out, and a big defensive stop there as Jabril Hazley was there to take him down.
And Jabril Hazley will get the credit for the tackle there. Great job to fly to the ball, but even more impressive was the great coverage there. No receiver was even a smidge open, and Nick had no option but to tuck it and run.
So now the field goal attempt for the Bulldogs to not come up empty on this possession. Dylan Bredesen gets it to go through. So the Bulldogs have a 10-0 lead on the home team. Rattlers come back with us to Tallahassee.
Have you seen some keys? Oh, thanks, sir.
4:18 remaining in the first quarter. South Carolina State, the visitors on the scoreboard with a 10-0 lead over Florida A&M. Bredesen on the kickoff, coming up to receive it. Marcus Williams fumbled that one, and a penalty marker comes out.
And we'll wait to see what exactly this will be. Away from the ball.
Awkward fielding nonetheless, Alfonso, from Marcus Williams. Tough to see, kind of running into that shadow of sun shade.
It also looked like he wasn't sure if he was going to be the one to receive it.
There's no foul on the play for a hold. First down, Florida A&M.
Okay, so that clears that up.
And let me tell you something that used to be done throughout the stadium a couple weeks ago, or last weekend. We were in Greensboro, North Carolina at A&T's homecoming. They announced the score of the FAMU Howard game, and everybody cheered. And now Aggies fans have something to be excited about because they're tied for first with FAMU in the MEAC after their win today over South Carolina State.
As Bishop Bonnet bounces it left, and that's going to be the guy to probably get this offense going as he has emerged as an offensive threat, offensive juggernaut at his size for this offense.
Yeah, coming in at 5'7", 175 pounds. The redshirt sophomore picks up good yardage on first down, and that moves the sticks. So we saw a little bit of Deshaun Stevens. Here's the other threat with the man in motion. A little misdirection this time, though. Runs into a wall of white jerseys.
That time, the front four of the Bulldogs doing a pretty good job. Bonnet is known for bouncing it out and changing direction, so don't take that as a sign that it's going to keep happening.
FAMU on the season averaging just about 28 points per game. That's best for 5th in the MEAC.
And it's because of guys like Bonnet and Stanley when he's throwing it okay. As we have another handoff to Bonnet. That time he's wrapped up right at the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely nowhere to go. Jalen Evans in on the tackle. He had a career day earlier in the season against UCF, coming up with 10 tackles. Now 3rd down quickly for the Rattlers. You see how many guys to the line for South Carolina State.
Showing blitz. Rattlers give them time to adjust to what they had.
Trips to the bottom of your screen. Rolling right. Stanley changing direction, going back the other way, and he's tripped up by Zafir Kelly. So not the possession you wanted if you're FAMU. Back-to-back punts now.
Ryan Stanley and this offense in general has struggled to gather some sort of consistency. Started off with that big 1st down run by Bonnet and then just stifled by the Bulldogs again. And here we are with another punt.
Again, Fadul, one of those dangerous guys, and you see that booming leg from him, and all Traquan DeBose can do is watch it bounce into the end zone for the touchback.
About a yard or two too deep. The bounce on it was pretty good. If you just taken a yard or two off, it would have been right inside the 1.
And we're seeing a much improved South Carolina State team right now. Alfonso, they started out the year 0-4, and since then they've won 3
for holding
of their last 4.
South Carolina State.
And more impressively, you know, they take down Morgan, they win against Dell State and Howard, but they were toe-to-toe with Bethune-Cookman, only losing by 2.
And that's just where heart comes in, and they have a good coach in Buddy, and they want him to get a little closer to this winningest coach, which he's only 9 wins away from. After today, it would be 8, and they're playing for him, I believe.
Buddy Pugh in his 17th season with the program as the head coach. A little shake and bake in the backfield from Nick, and Nick is brought down.
It's really shifty, and he's made a lot of guys miss already, and once he gets past that front 4, there's really nobody there to answer for it. So that's why we've seen so many big runs, and if they continue to shake and get past that initial line of scrimmage, it's going to keep happening all game.
That was a pickup of about 2, and the handoff for the Bulldogs to Tayshawn Baines.
Jabril Hazley is there to bear hug and take down the ball carrier. Just showing some love there. Welcome to brag, young fella.
No gain on the play, brings up 3rd and 8.
So a crucial 3rd down here, especially for this FAMU defense who wants to hopefully get the Bulldogs to punt and get some good field possession. There's about 30 seconds remain here in this 1st quarter. Nick in the pocket, rushed out there, some pressure there. He throws it up, and it's intercepted.
Interception on the play.
Andrew Hines coming up with his 3rd pick of the season.
Their receiver just couldn't adjust to the ball, slightly higher than it should have been. Luckily, the refs didn't call defensive pass interference on a little touch from the defender, and Hines right there with the interception.
And you said it, Alfonso. It all started with the pressure up front. DeMontre Moore bringing that pressure.
DeMontre Moore, a part of so many of these big guys, Joshua Crutchfield, Elijah Richardson, who pressures from time to time, and they've caused havocs for offenses they face this season.
So Stanley going deep over top, a lot of contact, but no flag thrown as it's incomplete. Do you like that play call from Alex Jackson, the OC?
I do. You're down 10-0 at senior night. You want to get some momentum going for you, and here in the 1st, there's only 11 seconds left. And the receiver had a good chance at making a play on the ball there. I think he just lost his footing, but great play call.
Alex Brown on the coverage for the Bulldogs, veteran in that secondary, which has really been a bright spot for South Carolina State this season.
key returner from last year, has 3 interceptions on the season and 1 last week against Howard.
Now 2nd and 10 from the 40-yard line of South Carolina State. Play action, tried to throw it down the seam, and Chad Hunter, the intended target, just off base there with his wide receiver with Stanley.
That play looked a little crowded. I'm not sure if there was a screen developing as well, and he just kind of threw it in the direction to throw it away. Nonetheless, here we are, 3rd and 10 on the 40.
And the question we asked, or I asked you at the top of the podcast, of how would Ryan Stanley bounce back? How would he answer this week after dropping that game to Howard? Thus far, it doesn't seem to be back to his normal form. 7 seconds to go. The handoff. And a way to be there, Johnny on the spot in the backfield as they move forward.
Great idea there. It's 3rd down and long. The defense is expecting a pass there. And
that brings us to the end of the first quarter with South Carolina State on top, 10-0.
PR for 72 months plus $1,000 cash back on select 2018 models.
Drive your ambition. Mitsubishi Motors.
A 10-0 advantage for South Carolina State as they're set to receive the ball. Chris Fadul back to punt. Let's see if they can pin him deep. End over end kick. Coverage team is there. And Fadul does his job. It's down near the 8-yard line. Impressions from that first quarter, Alfonso?
Dominant showing by the Bulldogs. It's tough to really judge the Rattlers thus far. They can't get anything going. Some nice play calls that just didn't come through by chance or by someone tripping. So in the second quarter, which has proven to be their best quarter over this entire season, they scored 73 as opposed to their opponent's 37. So I believe now we'll see the best of the Rattlers.
Excellent point as Nick gets himself out of that Rattler end zone, or his own end zone rather, give him some breathing room.
Terry Jefferson on the tackle, tried to strip it away there at the end, but Nick did a great job of protecting the ball. Over 40 tackles on the season for Terry Jefferson. He is a ball hawk.
Even though the Rattlers seem to clog up the ball on the field, and Demontrez Burrows able to pick up that fumble recovery. Boy, very fortunate for South Carolina State.
And again, there's Terry Jefferson. 2 plays in a row going for the ball. That time it paid off. Well, almost paid off. He gets the forced fumble, but not the fumble recovery.
Moves the ball forward. First down for the visitors. And once again, trying to go up the middle. And on the run is Jarius Jenkins. First time we've called his name this afternoon.
And thus far, I haven't seen outstanding speed or strength from this running back group, just great ball carry vision. And they find these holes. The Rattlers are plugging up some holes, and they just sidestep and go to the right one, the one that they need to.
This is among the toughest defenses in the conference, second best in terms of scoring defense at 18. But Jenkins once more knifing his way through those gray jerseys.
He's not only running against the Rattler defense, he put a spin move on the referee there. And I'm not sure if there should be a flag called for that or what.
He was in the way of the ball carrier. The guys in black and white. So terrific running from Jarius Jenkins. And thus far, moving the ball well. Nick taking a shot down the sideline with his big play guy, Demontrez Burrows. They say he's got a catch. Oh, my. Great body control there. Let's take a look at that.
Went up, bobbled it, found it again, and came down, kept it off of the turf.
Unbelievable. I think that's a Sports Center top 10 play right there. That moves them for the third time today into Rattler territory in the red zone. Just crossed the 5-yard line, and Nick a little slow to get up after that rush.
Nice juke move and tackled again there by Terry Jefferson. But big play by the Bulldogs to put them in striking distance.
Demontrez Burrows coming up with a huge catch.
And he is their top receiver.
It's Nick holding on. He better hold on to it, and he's in the end zone for the score.
And that flag is going to be for a face mask. So the score will still count as the Bulldogs are going to jump out to a 17. Well, let's not count our points before they're there. A 16-point lead, so they've already tied their season average.
Let's get the call here from Rory Bernard.
Personal foul, face mask, defense, number 4. That 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff. We will play the drive.
Wow, if someone would have told you that South Carolina State would shut out FAMU through a quarter and some change, would you have believed it?
Definitely not. We're talking about a team that not only was the underdog, but was dominating other teams. They beat NCAT earlier this year. We're playing amazing ball on the offensive end, defensive end, as that PAT goes through. And as of late, these past 2 weeks seem to be a shell of themselves. So right now, the score is 17-0, and we'll be back in Bragg in a few.
You're cold? Medicine.
Thus far, the fans here at Bragg just stunned at this 17-0 deficit to South Carolina State. The Bulldogs really look to be clicking on all cylinders.
As I mentioned before, this is the best quarter usually for the Rattlers. It is senior day. I don't expect this to be how this story ends.
So after that 15-yard penalty, it's a touchback for the Rattlers as we send it down to the third member of our team in Deja Martin.
All right, thank you guys. Here currently with Maurice Allen, who was recently here as a track and field sprinter with FAMU until Coach Marvin Green got a hold of him. What was the transition for you between sports?
It wasn't really that bad. It was same work ethic and just a different discipline. Just had to get my feet wet real fast and learn, but it was a really good experience.
Well, congratulations, because you recently won the Volvic World Long Drive Championship. Explain what that feeling was like.
I guess it was one of those things where you feel like you're destined for greatness. I saw it all week in my dreams. I felt like God put me in the proper position to allow that to happen, and glad I could bring it back home to FAMU.
Well, not only did you win the tournament, but you were also a 2-time European long drive champ. So what's next for you?
The next thing I did, I started a bunch of scholarships back in my high school where I'm from. We currently did $30,000 worth of scholarships. We're working on try to get 100 and change, and then try to do things to grow the sport of golf and to get more people involved.
All right, well, thank you so much for your interview, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, that's all I got for you. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Deja. I would love to know what his longest drive is and just what he does to prepare for that week in and week out. As looked like some contact there and a late flag on the field.
I'm not sure if that will be picked up or not. One referee signaled that it was tipped as the other one threw the flag out. And before that play, there was a completion for a first down to Xavier Smith from Ryan Stanley.
There's no foul for pass interference. The ball was tipped prior to the contact. Second down.
And that confirms it right there. The ball was tipped, so there will be no flag on the play.
Well, this Rattler offensive unit has to find something to get it going. What have you seen that's worked for them this season to help them get in the groove, Alfonso?
Bishop Bonnet. Time and time again, whether it's through the air or on the ground, he makes a way. Over 500 yards on the ground, over almost 200 through the air. It's Deshaun Smith says, hey, don't forget about me, as he dashes for what looks to be a first down.
Pushed out by Jalen Evans. Deshaun Smith, better than 500 rushing yards this season, and maybe that's the spark plug that the Rattlers need.
We've seen a few big plays, and then those drives end up as duds, so we need a few more and at least a field goal on the scoreboard to get some type of momentum going for the Rattlers.
11:20 and ticking in the second quarter. Stanley rolling to his right, avoids a defender, going deep, has a couple of men in the area, and what a grab by Xavier Smith.
Xavier going up where I believe either he or Marcus Williams would have had that. Nice sidestep there by Stanley, just throws it up, gives his receiver a chance, and he says, I gotcha.
Nabbing one of those 50-50 balls out of the air, and Smith said, I wanted it more. The redshirt freshman out of Haines City, Florida, as we have an injured Bulldog on the field. So we'll take a quick break and come.
And when you feel better about your snacks, you feel better about yourself.
Rattlers in striking distance as they're down 17 points to South Carolina State, but first time today they are in the red zone. The handoff to Smith, trying to roll to the outside, and he's still on his feet, reversing field. Ryan Stanley now serving as a blocker. He's got a nose for the end zone. He's in!
Touchdown Rattlers, and you hear these fans going crazy. Orange and green making waves everywhere.
What a fantastic piece of running from Deshaun Smith.
And that's the cutback that has your coach saying no, 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 until he starts saying yes, 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 and it ended in a touchdown.
You thought he was down. He had about 5 white jerseys and Bulldog defenders around him, and somehow slithers his way into the end zone.
Stanley even got out there and threw a block for us running back, and that's exactly what the morale of this stadium and, most importantly, this team needed.
Point after attempt is good. So now Florida A&M down by 10 after that terrific scoring drive from the Rattlers.
Deshaun Smith helping his average. Earlier I was saying he averages just over 6 yards per carry. And there, a big gash on the defense. The biggest play thus far besides that catch by Xavier Smith. And this is what you need consecutively to get your offense going.
And as you can hear inside Bragg Memorial Stadium, it's on and popping now. The Rattlers are feeling good, but they've still got a 10-point deficit against a South Carolina State team who has come out here and really impressed.
What they allowed there was for the Rattlers to get into the red zone, and they score on 81% of their trips to the drives in the red zones, 51% of those resulting in touchdowns. And Deshaun Smith said, hey, I'm going to help our percentage out a little bit here. Big 32 getting it done.
That's his 3rd touchdown of the season as the Rattlers kick it away.
Fairly short kick.
On the return, seemingly nowhere to go for Baines as he's tripped up at just about the 27-yard line.
And we have a Bulldog down.
The injured Bulldog on the field, Will Vereen, the redshirt freshman out of Little River, South Carolina, but luckily he's able to walk himself off.
And the Bulldogs are going to need him. He is their second top receiver, coming off of a 3-reception, 115-yard outing where he busted a long 69-yard play against Howard.
The question is, can FAMU stop this South Carolina State offense, who has really moved the ball at will in this first half? And Tyrese Nick, a big part of that as he picks up the first down.
Right there, the fans may not like that. It's assignment football to what looks like a fault. Terry sticks with the running back, doesn't even worry about the quarterback, and it results in a first down.
And South Carolina State has had a lot of success on first downs this afternoon. And Nick calling his own number again, but this time Mayweather is there to stop him.
And he's having a big day. That's his third tackle, I believe, second behind the line of scrimmages. He's trying to get these guys going.
Brings up 2nd and 11 from the Bulldogs 39-yard line.
Second down and 11.
And Nick drops it, picks it right back up, being pressured, gets it away and nearly intercepted. As Herman Jackson was headed towards the sideline, that brings up third down.
And he already has an interception on the season, trying to put another one in the stat sheet there. It's number 24. Great defense.
You see the escapability of Tyrese Nick and what he can do. DeMontre Moore and Joshua Crutchfield have been applying pressure throughout this first half. How do they continue that momentum here on a 3rd and 11 play?
It depends on the play. With the scrambling quarterback, there's no one formula that works. Sometimes you have to be aggressive and rush him. Sometimes you have to sit back. And
Nick standing in the pocket and dropped by Jalen Deuce. What an opportunity to turn the tide, and it just was in and out. He was running with it before he dropped it for the South Carolina native.
And Jalen Downs has made some big plays for this defense thus far this season. So if anyone could afford to drop it, it would be him. But you know he's beating himself up about that one.
So just the second punt of the afternoon for South Carolina State. And the drive will likely be extended as the punter falls to the turf, and quickly 2 yellow markers out on the field.
And that's exactly what you did not need if you are a Rattler. He was very close, thought he could reach around this blocker, and ran right into the punter.
Personal foul. Roughing the kicker. Receiving team. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
And this is something that Willie Simmons talked about before the game. Cleaning up those mistakes and miscues that they saw last week in Washington, D.C. One of them self-inflicted wounds with penalties.
There's been 1 or 2 games this season for the Rattlers where they've had under 10 penalties. So this is nothing new. They've won games with them, and they've lost games with them. And you'd think they'd learn, but it just seems the discipline of this team needs to improve going forward. I'm not sure exactly what Willie Simmons has to do, but it's just a tendency.
Tiffany Green, Alfonso Barber here with you from Bragg Memorial Stadium, 1st and 10. And South Carolina State has driven the ball very well this afternoon against a FAMU team coming into today's game. Tops in the MEAC. The Aggies have since tied for first at both 5-1 with a win today over Savannah State. It's also important to mention, while South Carolina State is a Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference opponent, this game does not count towards league play with departure of Hampton University. So Will Vereen, who we saw banged up a little bit earlier, snags it at the 40-yard line, brought down by Troy Hilton.
Happy to see that it wasn't anything serious, especially since he's coming off of a big game. I know he wants to have another one here, but that time wrapped up for a pretty short game as the Rattlers fly to the ball.
And Buddy Pugh in his 17th season with South Carolina State as their head coach has had great success against Florida A&M during his tenure.
Well, I tell you, it's kind of a Cinderella story with a buddy graduated from South Carolina State University in 1975.
South Carolina State.
So a timeout taken by South Carolina State. We'll quickly step aside, come back as the Bulldogs are driving.
You can't fake steak.
Big 3rd and 3 coming up for South Carolina State as we're seeing a surge perhaps by the Rattlers on defense. And the handoff quickly, Omar Cummings. And Cummings with a terrific carry on 3rd down. Dowse makes the tackle.
And that's a freshman right there. Omar Cummings had a 100-yard rushing game earlier this season, 13 carries for 103 yards and a touchdown. And last week, 12 rushes for 95 and a touchdown.
Cummings with nowhere to go, tweaked his shoulder a little bit against Howard. Interesting story about him, the redshirt freshman out of Beaufort, South Carolina, a power lifter, he and his siblings, and a youth national champion along with a gold medal in the Pan Am Games. So homeboy is strong.
I believe he has a bright future, already making strides and having big games as a freshman.
Just over 7 minutes to go before the end of the half, and Tyrese Nick holds on to it. Just so slippery.
Speaking of holding, I believe the Bulldogs got away with one right there. Jabril Hazley was coming across the corner to make the play and couldn't get away from the lineman. But there's no flag on the field.
3rd and 2.
And that will set up 3rd and 2.
And remember, this drive was extended after a roughing the kicker called on 4th down. And since then, the Bulldogs continuing to engineer a drive behind solid running from Cummings and company.
And they are controlling the front line. That's been the narrative this whole first half, and there, another 3rd down conversion.
And really, this is an offensive line that had to grow up quickly this season, and they've done so behind Malik Mickle, their leader at left tackle. Eyeing the end zone, Nick quickly moves around to the left, banged up a couple of times, but he's in, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's going to increase the lead some more, a little more wiggle room for the Bulldogs. And the Rattlers are going to keep, or attempt after this, to keep the Bulldogs from slithering away from them in the home stadium.
So an impressive showing in this first half from South Carolina State. Still yet the Rattlers have not been able to answer them on offense nor stop them on defense.
And now it's now 24-7, and that's what's been going on all day, ironically. As you said, they can't get anything permanent going. They had a score that was the result of a few big plays that put them in position. But outside of that, very dry showing on the offensive and defensive side for the Rattlers.
And do you feel like this is a hangover from last weekend because there was so much energy built up and put into taking down Howard with a chance to automatically qualify for the Celebration Bowl, the Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl? Do you feel like there's a hangover here?
Not necessarily. Willie Simmons talked about in the press conference, they have a 24-hour rule, win, lose, or draw. And I believe they really emphasize that, not just him, but the rest of the coaching staff as well. And it's just one of those days where maybe they did underestimate this South Carolina State team, and they're showing them why they shouldn't have.
Bredesen kicks it away and fielded just near the boundary line, and interesting decision there, but Marcus Williams tiptoeing, showing a little nice footwork there to stay in bounds. And the Rattlers will trot back onto the field with their offensive unit.
Though it was risky, it actually worked out. Ball would have been around the 5-4 yard line. He made a move, made someone look silly, and got it to the 25.
No matter the outcome of this game, as we mentioned, it will not count as a conference game. FAMU will have its first winning season since 2011. So the turnaround that we have seen from this program with Willie Simmons and his regime coming in, you have to credit the job that they've done. But right now their backs are against the wall as Xavier Smith trying to move out to the outside. Zafir Kelly trips him up.
And a big part of that transformation and this transition is chalked up to the seniors. Ironically, a senior night. But Willie Simmons talked about how his initial meeting with this team was not with the whole team, just the senior group. And they set goals for themselves that they've held to. And he's really proud of those guys.
16 seniors honored before today's game. And on the handoff, there's Bishop Bonnet.
The Bishop.
The ball carrier is Bishop.
I like Bonnet when you see him, maybe small in stature, but one of the things that we have continuously seen since the emergence and then success of Tariq Cohen out of North Carolina A&T is that every team is starting to try to find that diminutive back who can break it wide open. Bishop Bonnet, perhaps the guy here for FAMU.
Chad Hunter with the reception.
And now the offense starting to move with their leading receiver in Chad Hunter.
And he has been relatively quiet tonight. I'm not sure if that's his first reception or second, one of the first. But he's the top returning receiver from 2017 and coming into this game with 518 yards, just 80 yards away from his output last season.
Cool guy. Played his high school ball at Rickards. And getting it out to Smith. Xavier Smith continuing to stay on his feet. And it looked like it may have been a late hit out of bounds by Dwayne Nichols. No penalty flags. But now you're starting to sense a pickup in this offense for FAMU.
What Willie Simmons has to do, him and his offensive coordinator, is keep attacking this defense and keep going to your electrifying guys. So far this drive, it's worked.
And you're noticing the pace as well starting to move out, and all they're doing are just quick outs of the backfield and getting it to their playmakers, getting a rhythm for Ryan Stanley, and obviously allowing the guys who can break away and make something special happen, get it done.
We know how much football is about confidence, and right now, as you said, those short passes are doing just that for Ryan Stanley, setting him up to be able to throw the deep ball again and maybe complete for a touchdown on this play.
And that's what you want to see on first down, really those long passes out or extended run plays. And so now you only have 5 yards to gain, and you get this offense going. Stanley once more sacrificing his body for the block as Bishop Bonnet counters back to the right side, and that's near the sticks. Third down and short.
And we see Bishop Bonnet limping. That's not what you want to see as a Rattler fan. Is he has had problems with that ankle as he hobbles to the sideline and collapses on the sideline as well. So we will look into that as the game progresses.
So you see the jumbo package here, and Wildcat, and deciding to keep it himself is Ricky Henrillis.
Yes, and Ricky is another member of this deep backfield. Him, Deshaun Smith, Bishop Bonnet, Zende Ray before he made the transition to receiver. These guys are weapons with speed and power. And he picks up the first there. So we're looking at 1st and 10 inside the red zone where the Rattlers are very dangerous.
For just the second time today. Last time they made a trip down here was Deshaun Smith, who found the end zone for a 15-yard score. Alex Brown on the coverage, and Chad Hunter sees that ball sail out of bounds.
Great coverage there. Crowd didn't like it, but that was a great jam. He has to get off of him at the point of emphasis at the line of scrimmage.
Smith flanked to Stanley's right, quickly gets the ball out, targets Hunter once more. And there's Alex Brown again, along with Lane Jones on the tackle.
Alex Brown continues to produce this season. The Bulldogs are more than happy with his performance here today and last week as well.
Fifth-year senior and what is a very young secondary for South Carolina State. Now third and long. And Stanley sensed a little pressure, trying to direct some traffic. Finds his man on the outside, still on his feet. Marcus Williams picking up first down yardage. They're within the 5.
Great move, great will to just break the tackle. And got a few extra yards before being blown up by number 11 from the Bulldogs.
And once again, bringing in that Wildcat package, you see Ryan Stanley trot off. Ricky Henrillis, the redshirt sophomore from Miami.
And the Bulldogs seem to be ready for it, loaded. Or
second charge timeout, South Carolina State.
Possibly not, as they call the timeout.
Well, they just wanted to talk things over for just a little bit before, as South Carolina State has one timeout remaining. Florida A&M has all 3. So if you're in the huddle for both sides, Buddy Pugh, what are you looking for, and how do you defend whatever you believe FAMU is going to bring your way?
I was confident in what they had. They loaded the box if they come out in that Wildcat formation again. I don't believe Ricky Henrillis is going to throw the ball. So I believe they were ready for the run, and they had their best guys out defending the receiver. So we'll see.
All right, so a quick break from the game. What dance is this? Because I've seen it. Does anybody know? Because it feels all down south to me. See, I'm a Florida girl. You're a Florida guy?
I'm a Florida guy.
Yeah.
I think that's a little further south than I was. But regardless, Venom and the King of Orange and Green having some fun there, entertaining the crowd.
So now 1st and goal. Henrillis keeping it himself. Does he charge into the end zone? He does! FAMU with the score. They answer.
And that was a tough run. Wasn't going to get it initially, but that second effort by him and his line in front of him got him across the goal line. And now it's setting up to just be a 2-touchdown game. And we're still here in the second quarter.
Leon for the extra point. And it's good. So a 10-point game as South Carolina State still on top. But remember, Alfonso, FAMU receives the ball in the second half.
They received that, and also, in addition to the second quarter being a great quarter for them, which they've produced 2 touchdowns thus far, the fourth quarter is another great quarter for the Rattlers. So they're more than in this game, and I think that the Rattlers are feeling good about where they are right now.
It's been an exciting and busy week in the capital city with general election on Tuesday, and then this is the president's inauguration week, capped off by a gala on yesterday.
Was it? Larry Robinson has been around for so long. It seems so overdue. But a guy who deserves it, who really loves this university and doesn't care if he receives recognition for what he does or not.
Dr. Robinson, certainly a selfless guy, being now the 12th president of Florida A&M University. Folks being blown up on this kickoff return as Tayshawn Baines brings it out to about the 35-yard line. And that's the thing, when you see kickoff returns and it's just open season for guys, that's one of the things that they're looking to minimize with their new kickoff rules and kind of take out the game, because you're thinking about the safety of the players.
Definitely, and as fans, and even some players, you're all for it. You want guys to be able to sit down and have conversations with their children and enjoy the rest of their life after football. But there's also some guys out there who live to go blow people up, just like we just saw.
Under a minute to go before each team heads into the locker room. Nick taking a shot over top, and Demontrez Burrows being closely guarded by Orlando McKinley, and that one was out of reach.
Very close coverage, good coverage, and tried to draw a defensive pass interference there, but the ref saw that he was just in great position.
Interesting play call, given that FAMU has all 3 timeouts and South Carolina State has a 10-point lead. They could very well just run the ball, perhaps run this clock out nearly. Instead, they throw it deep on first down.
My only thought is possibly he was thinking exactly what you were thinking, and thinking that Simmons was thinking the exact same thing that you were thinking. And since it didn't work, they'll go ahead and kneel the ball here.
And Willie Simmons.
First charge timeout, Florida A&M. First charge timeout of the half.
Takes a quick 30-second timeout. But in your opinion, Alfonso, South Carolina State comes in as a 3-5 ball club overall. They haven't played like that today. In your opinion, what have you seen?
Please reset the game clock to 44 seconds.
As they reset the game clock. But game in or week in and week out, you never know what you're going to get from a team. These guys are coming in and they're playing motivated football. They know that they were counted out. They were the underdog. Maybe not by the Rattlers, but by everyone else. This is the #1 team in the MEAC, and they know they have a lot to prove about their program and about their coach. And they've shown it here today.
Bulldogs, all 3 wins in conference play. And again, you know, FAMU was well aware, too, that they left the door open for a lot of teams to perhaps grab a share of the conference title after last weekend.
And with that in mind, you think that they come out with a little bit more energy than they did, but as you said, it may have been a hangover.
Omar Cummings and stood up by Ronaldo Flowers. And so another timeout taken by FAMU.
Florida A&M. Second charge timeout of the half.
They've got 1 remaining. It's 3rd and 10. So they will get the ball back. Or perhaps, is it 4th down?
That's what the sign on the field is saying. If so, this is really not good for the Bulldogs.
No, yeah, this is 4th down. They had the toss over the top. That was incomplete.
Yep.
So now you have 40 seconds to work with. Back to receive is Orlando McKinley. And perhaps at the very least, FAMU could cut this lead truly to a touchdown if they could knock in a field goal before the end of the quarter.
And Orlando McKinley is definitely a guy who can do that. Another one of those electrifying guys. Very shifty and very quick. As they sell out for it, almost get there again.
McKinley drifting back just near the 10-yard line. He's got to wait for his blockers, and he's able to move through. And you see a penalty flag, and that's likely going to come back for a block in the back.
And as I said, he's electrifying. Makes a guy miss, and then shoot, he's out. And that block in the back there coming late on the sideline, just totally unnecessary. If that is indeed what it is.
The officials are conferring now. But a penalty, just what it does for you in negating and taking away that momentum for your team, especially when you're looking to drive down. Now, we've seen about 3 penalties already today, or flags, waved off. So you never know here. I think he's going to make the call, though. Rory Bernard is running over
with purpose.
Yeah, to first-year head coach Willie Simmons to give an explanation.
But yeah, as you mentioned, momentum is the big one. Penalties are going to happen throughout the game. You just hope that they're ones that aren't at important times. And for the Rattlers, that hasn't been the case.
There are 2 fouls on the play, one against each team. Block in the back, Florida A&M. Personal foul, face mask, South Carolina State. Those penalties offset, will re-kick.
There it is.
Okay.
So a re-kick is on the way, and another opportunity for Orlando McKinley.
Simmons will keep the hot legs, if you will, out there of McKinley. See if he can make something happen again. 28 seconds now left. Just enough time to make a little razzle-dazzle, if you will. And the Rattlers almost got there last time, the time before. So let's see if they sell out again to get this one.
Y'all wouldn't believe this. That's my cousin with a little megaphone right there. Zach Ansley. Another wonderful punt off the leg from Jeremy Pettaway. And that one with the touchback. Jeremy Pettaway was just like, I'm not going to even give you a chance.
Yeah, I'm not playing with it. I saw what you did last play, and I'll raise you one.
So 21 seconds for the Rattlers offense before they head into the locker room. You've got a gunslinger. We've said it all day long with Ryan Stanley. He's been a little mild today, if you will, but this is a huge possession going in. If you can gain any more, Mo, if you will.
And they've been building that confidence with those short passes. So if there's a time for him to step up and say, hey, my confidence is back, it's right now.
4 receivers set, 2 flanked to each side. Stanley finds his man, Chad Hunter, down the seam, still on his feet, tripped up at midfield.
And it looks like Chad is hurt. Took a shot directly to the ankle, and that's going to stop the clock. Hopefully he's okay. As we mentioned, the top receiver for the Rattlers.
And the training staff quickly trots onto the field to tend to Chad Hunter. He's been a big target all game and all season long.
Florida A&M has elected to take their final timeout to avoid a 10-second runoff. 3rd and final timeout, Florida A&M.
So that is huge. Obviously, the health of Chad Hunter comes first. Let's look at that again.
Yep, right when he planted his foot into the ground, it looks like. Is that Alex Brown?
That was Alex Brown.
This man is all over the field and making maybe one of the biggest plays of the game right there.
So while Willie Simmons and his crew has a little more time to talk over his team, the student section, they having a good time.
They are. And I don't know if you see this coat right here, this gray coat. Fashion and Modeling University, some call it.
They still have all of the modeling troops' faces, images, and Epicurean.
Yes.
You know what? The set was often used as a runway. Because you would go on the set, and especially on Fridays, everyone would come in their finest threads. You had to show off. You couldn't just half step.
Right now, I think people are a little cold. They're just a little bit more focused on being warm right now than the fashion aspect of it.
If you keep moving, you can definitely remain warm.
King of Orange and Green is trying to lead the way. I haven't seen him sit down all game.
I love this, though. Look at the world-famous Marching 100. They're about 13 seconds before taking the field for their halftime performance. But the added DJ to the stadium has made an extra element in Bragg Memorial. When I was in school here, it wasn't quite that way. As Chad Hunter gets up, he's getting some assistance to the sideline, walking very gingerly.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see if you are the Rattlers. The only good news about that is there's
been a correction. The clock would have stopped because of the first down game by Florida A&M. They will get their they will get their third and final timeout back. Florida timeout. Florida A&M has one timeout remaining.
And so obviously they're going to quickly spike the ball.
The clock will start on my ready for play.
As soon as the whistle goes. And there it is.
So 11 seconds now, and as you said, huge. They have their timeout back. So let's see if they'll go towards the sideline or aim for a big play again.
Remember, he's got Smith and Williams. Instead, Stanley is sacked. A big play there from the D-line.
Third and final timeout, Florida A&M.
Of South Carolina State, Roderick Perry was there for the sack.
And though that seems bad, I believe it's better than it would have been if he actually made it out of the pocket.
30 seconds.
For the rest of the time would have just ran out. So that gave them the time to call the timeout.
I know we're supposed to be focused on the game and obviously 5 seconds remaining drawn up, but they're playing shoot in the stadium. That's among one of my favorite dances. These kids are getting it.
Yes, yes. He was waiting on this moment, that guy right there.
If you want to know the pulse of a community, of a nation, just look in the high school or college stands on Saturdays or at basketball games inside the arena.
And
to see what the latest is. What's this right here?
And this is limping with the walk. You just put the shoulder back as we're going to take a brief break here. Or no, we're going to stay right here. But yeah, the big part about that is they're down 10 points. Imagine if FAMU was up right now.
Well, final play here. So Ryan Stanley goes underneath and throws a near interception to Alex Brown to end the half. And South Carolina State, the visitors from Orangeburg, South Carolina, on top, 24-14. They've had a very good showing here in this first half. It's been Tyrese Nick, DeMontrez Burrows, along with Farika Greer, helping to set up drives and scores for the Rattlers as we send it down to the third member of our team, in Deja Martin.
All right, thank you guys. Right now I'm with head coach Willie Simmons. Coach, what is your team going to do to prevent their offense from scoring again?
We got to play assignment football. We got to tackle the running back. We got to take the quarterback. We got to take the pitch. And it's option football. We got to play responsible football.
So what are you going to tell your team as you come out of the second half to prepare them mentally to build that momentum? Because we saw here the momentum was building with your offense. So what are you going to tell them to keep that building?
Well, again, we just got to get to playing basic fundamental football. If we can do that, if we can play assignment football, we'll be okay. Up front, offensively, we got to do a better job of playing with fundamentals. We got to block them. We got to give the quarterback time to set his feet and make throws. And we just got to make plays. If we do that, not have penalties, I think we give ourselves a chance.
All right, well, good luck to you, Coach, and right back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much. So a 10-point deficit, and Florida A&M will get the ball when we come back. But right now, the world-famous Marching 100 taking the field will step aside. Visiting Bulldogs on top by 10 as you see the world-famous, incomparable Marching 100 as we say hello and welcome in again with Alfonso Barber. I'm Tiffany Green, and that first half really was all controlled by South Carolina State. They made several trips to the red zone. What were your first thoughts on first half analysis?
There was not a first down by the Rattlers in the first quarter. Very better quarter in the second. Very much better football being played in the second quarter. Willie Simmons and this offense and the defense, they're trending in the right direction. They just have to not let the halftime get in the way of their momentum.
And we're hoping to get first half stats to share with you, but we saw Tyree Snick do a terrific job of really not only managing this game, but being the playmaker that he is behind center.
And that was mostly in the first quarter as well. They made some adjustments in the second quarter. In the interview before halftime, Coach Simmons mentioned how they just need to get back to assignment football and attacking the running back and quarterback when need be, and they can stop this offense.
Ryan Stanley hasn't been his usual self yet. He's still been able to find targets, but we'll have to check on the health of Chad Hunter, one of his top receivers, as he went down late in that first half.
Somewhat inconsistent throughout this season, but he has the ability to make big throws, as he did. All we have to do is all they have to do now is depend on Xavier Smith, Bishop Bonnet, Deshaun Smith, those guys, especially if Chad Hunter isn't available to come back.
And quickly, how do you see FAMU coming out in that second half?
Very strong, looking to make a statement. They're down 10 points in the senior night.
All right, we'll step aside very quickly from Bragg Memorial Stadium with the score 24-14, South Carolina State on top.
State Senator Bill Montfort, Horace Malloy, the tax collector.
You all were counting ballots when I left, and you're still counting ballots.
Family, members of the Board of Governors of the state of Florida, to the members
Since their inception, your family will now assist you. And please give a round of applause to
served on his thesis committee. I worked with him throughout his graduate school.
President Robinson as the 12th president of Florida Agriculture.
Running backs. You must always remember that the Rattlers will strike and strike and strike again. That's the Rattlers.
It's hard to stop a train.
Being a cheerleader, it's all about, indirect competition. Especially with me being the only HBCU student here, it definitely makes me get a little bit more on my game because I have to represent for everybody. So I try to do everything that any intern can do. I participate in all events. I actually was the only intern to go to the community service event that we had on Sunday. So it's just about meeting all these people in the NFLPA, getting your name out. I learned so much about football indirectly with the actual sport. So I learned these athletes are real people. It's not just about the game. You think of a game as entertainment, this is their life. It's just a whole different perspective on the actual sport. So I learned wellness, how to keep your head together, how to keep focused on your goals, different needs that NFL players will have that you will never even think about. like their rights as like actually workers. You have to think about this as a career, like they're employees, not just athletes and superstars. So I think that was just a good experience being here at the PA. It just gives you a different outlook on the NFL in general. And you don't even look at it as a game anymore. You look at them as people. I actually work with education development. You know, the players want to go back to school. If they want to get a master's degree, we have programs for them for that. If they want to have somebody who can organize, you know, advise them on finances, we have a financial advisor program where I actually sit there with the other employees and figure out which advisors are eligible for the program, match them with different players. Currently right now I'm working on the rookie onboarding, so which is more like advisors for the rookies. So they list out their goals and then we just make action plans for them to like go through the season to achieve those goals in like a year or two. So Fanny definitely prepared me for what I'm doing here, so I'm forever grateful.
Thanks, bro. You got ripples.
That's everyday easy. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Back here just before the start of the third quarter as both teams on the field as we send it down to the third member of our crew in Deja Martin with head coach Buddy Pugh of South Carolina State.
All right, thank you guys so much. As you said, I'm here with head coach Buddy Pugh. Coach, right now you're in a lead 24-14. What is your team planning to do to keep the lead and build it?
Well, we got to keep scoring for sure. We're at the point now where, look, I don't know if we can stop them. They got a little bit of momentum coming out of the first half, and defensively, we got to play a lot better, but at the same time, we tell our offense that we got to continue to score.
So do you have any tricks up your sleeve as we go into the second half?
No, our regular offense has been pretty good. We don't need tricks right now. What we really need to do is play good, sound football on both sides of the ball. If we can do that, then we got a chance to win this football game.
All right, well, good luck to you, Coach. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Deja. And Buddy Pugh, the Dean of Coaches in the MEAC 17 seasons as the head man at South Carolina State. And yeah, they don't need any tricks up their sleeve. When you look at a guy like Tyree Snick, who is a pure athlete, the best on the team, 110 yards and 2 scores in that first half.
He is a trick. I mean, it's after Halloween, but he's still tricking and treating for Buddy Pugh here today. Some broken plays that should have been losses, he turned into big gains. So as long as he has them, like you said, that's a trick.
And on the other side for Florida A&M, you know, Coach Pugh talked about the momentum that they had going into the locker room. What do you see as Willie Simmons says, we still got some things to clean up?
This is the team that came into this game averaging close to 400 yards per game. So they can definitely get it going once they get it going. And they have the momentum, like Buddy said.
All right, we'll see what the Rattlers have in store in this second half as they are set to receive here on the field as things are getting underway. And what I like is we got to roll. We got to have some fun up here in the booth as everyone is having a good time in the stands. You know, one thing that is great about this Florida A&M crew is the fact that the Rattlers come out and they support, one of the tops in attendance in FCS football. In home attendance the last 5 seasons, averaging just about 18,000 as the return man trying to get some good starting field position for FAMU.
And that's Marcus Williams, and we have a Bulldog down on the first play of the second half.
Injured Bulldog on the field, number 47, D'Angelo Frazier.
And the staff comes out immediately.
So we'll quickly go to break and step aside. 14:55 to go in the third.
Media timeout.
Wow, Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Start things 25-yard line, and quickly the handoff to Deshaun Smith. Deshaun Smith moving the pile, and Bulldogs along with him as he picks up a gain of about 8 on that first down run.
And that's exactly what they want to see. Looks like the momentum is still at their backs. Let's see if they can ride that right back into this game.
Once more, the handoff this time brought down quickly in the backfield. A tackle for a loss by number 98, Bruce Johnson, the senior, along that D-line for the Bulldogs.
Well, just like that, we're going to face our first third down for the Rattlers. So let's see what Alex Jackson, the offensive coordinator for Florida A&M, sets up for his team here. Watch out for the dump pass out to Marcus Williams. No.
Instead, slings it over to the short side, and a dangerous throw as good coverage there from the secondary and the Bulldogs. And quickly, a quick 3 and out for FAMU on their first possession of the second half.
Nice defense there by Dwayne Nichols, opposite of Alex Brown.
And again, the question all week long was, how would Ryan Stanley bounce back after last weekend against Howard in that loss? And thus far as getting to the punter, it was blocked and touched by a Bulldog player, and on the recovery was FAMU.
Herman Jackson, number 24 for the Rattler, comes up with it. Nice heads-up play. That's just a confusing situation there for the defender. Didn't know whether he should try and get it or not. Touched it, wasn't able to get it, and the Rattlers will have it back.
And now a positive turn of events for FAMU. Let's see if they can capitalize after, as we said, punting, and they were just given a gift right there.
Maybe it was a play.
I don't think so. I think that was just good defense on special teams. The Rattlers fortunate to come up with that one. So Stanley drops back, going down the sideline, finds Williams. Williams turns his body, great control, and he hauls it in.
And that was on Alex Brown, and he's not exactly a nobody. Marcus Williams has made a name for himself this entire game.
So now the Rattlers move after a strong throw and catch, that back shoulder throw from Ryan Stanley. With time, and again looking like the same play, going with Williams just through the hands of Marcus Williams. So you see they're going to target number 80 quite a bit, at least that's the thought early on with Chad Hunter out.
And they're not worried about Alex Brown. Ryan Stanley, that was a great pass. If Marcus Williams could have just laid out for it, that could have potentially been a touchdown. I love it from this offense. That's going to set them up with a 2nd down and 10. Ricky Hemmerlis is now in the backfield for the Rattlers.
And quickly read by Johnson, Bruce Johnson, here to stop Hemmerlis on the carry. Short gain brings up 3rd down.
Turned what would have been a loss of 3 or 4 into a gain of 1. So they'll take it. But here we are again, 3rd down, where the Rattlers have struggled here tonight.
So getting the call from the sideline as a quick no huddle. We've seen that quite a bit from offenses all across college football. I call it the hurry up to wait. Here's Stanley. And feeling the pressure, not able to escape the pocket, and tripped up by Tyrell Goodwin, a junior out of Columbia, South Carolina, comes up with the sack. And once more, this Bulldogs defense holds.
And that's going to take them out of field goal position there, as they could have cut this down to a one-possession game. And there it is on 3rd down. The Rattlers have just not been able to convert tonight. That now makes them 2 of 8 as they continue to struggle.
And that was something that Willie Simmons told Deja going into the locker room. We've got to do a better job of protecting our quarterback. You saw the pocket collapse there on Ryan Stanley, but an excellent job by a unique weapon in Chris Fadul. He pins him inside the 5 as we take a quick break.
Payments until next year. The Black Friday sales event ends soon. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Back here at Bragg, 11:51 to go in the 3rd quarter. And South Carolina State starting deep in their own territory.
After this play, we'll go down to Deja with Greg Coleman.
All right, thank you guys so much. Once again, I'm here with one of the greatest, first African-American punter in the NFL. If you guys don't know, he was also in the FAMU Football Hall of Fame and the State of Florida Track and Field Hall of Fame. How does it feel with all those accomplishments?
You know,
It's an honor. I mean, you know, when you stop and think about it, you hear it, you don't realize the path that you've gone until people start talking about these things. But, you know, my years here at FAM, HBCU, it was just an honor. Being here at FAM was more like a family, and with teachers and instructors and coaches. I just saw some of my coaches that Coach Bogan and a few others, Rudy Hubbard. I mean, these are the men that turned my life around. Coach Bobby Lang and my track coach. Because the things that I learned and they instilled in me at FAM are lessons learned that I have lived and I pass on to my kids and our players.
Right, and really quick, speaking of passing on your players, we have our very own Chris Vadul, who is the #1 punter in the nation in NCAA and FCS. Do you have any advice or anything you want to say to him?
There's nothing that advice, absolutely no. Encouragement, yes. Just keep thumping, doing what you're doing, because if he continues, they'll find a place for him in the National Football League, regardless of whether you're from FAMU or any other HBCU school. Man, just keep thumping that ball.
All right, thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Deja.
All right, back to you guys.
Spoken from a FAMU legend and a trailblazer in the NFL, as Deja mentioned, a dozen seasons with the Vikings, as wrapped up quickly in the backfield, bringing down Tyree Snick for the sack.
Antonio Miller, aided by none other than Terry Jefferson, who made the tackle before that as well. He continues to be a ball hawk, but back to what Mr. Coleman was saying down there, these guys are playing. They're playing in a position where they aren't given as many views as someone else would, but you can still make it, and ultimately that's what these guys are out here playing for.
3rd and 10, and I'll piggyback on your thought after this play, because I would respectfully disagree with that, given the fact that we have platforms now for all schools to get more visibility. We'll talk about more of it on the other side.
First charge timeout.
After the timeout, 3rd and 15. Rattler Nation, make this crowd get loud.
That's a great experience. 3rd and 15 coming up for South Carolina State as we come back from the break. Airing it out is Tyree Snick. We saw Demontrez Burrows come in with a huge catch earlier. That one broken up in coverage by Orlando McKinley.
He jumped up and, of course, did the incomplete sign, but we know cornerbacks aren't always contributing to that. Here it looks like maybe the ball or the ground is the reason he couldn't come up with it, and he looks to be a little hobbled on the sideline.
But that's just the moxie and confidence, if you will, of any BB. They always feel like they've had some part of the play one way or another.
Definitely. And as the Bulldogs are about to punt, they are in their own end zone.
And that one shanked a little bit by Jeremy Pettaway, so good field position for Florida A&M.
It did take about a 10-yard bounce at the end there, so not as bad as it could have been, but regardless, like you said, still great field position.
And Alfonso, I want to go back to that conversation that Deja had with Greg Coleman, because he talked about the FAMU and how proud he was of Chris Vadul and just all that he had done. And you had mentioned earlier that not the same type of exposure, and certainly there are levels to this thing, right? But I would submit to you that because you have platforms like ESPN3 streaming games that everybody can have access to, it allows everyone all over the world to be able to take in and see what's happening. And so you think about a Tariq Cohen or Brandon Parker for North Carolina A&T, Chad Williams for Grambling State, as Smith is bottled up. You think about all these different players that have gone on and have successful careers currently in the NFL, and I think most quickly of Darius Leonard, the former two-time MEAC Defensive Player of the Year for South Carolina State, who is having a Rookie of the Year type season. They've gotten exposure and they've gotten their time as Chris Adams is down on the field, but that leads to then a larger conversation about the type of players that are infiltrating HBCU football, because we saw for a long time within the MEAC and the SWAC that they were the torchbearers. They were the ones who were the Hall of Famers, part of the steel curtain in Donnie Shell and company. And they were the ones who helped to lay the groundwork as we send it down to Deja Martin.
All right, guys, it looks like today is a major legend day for FAMU. I'm standing with track and field Olympian Justin Gatlin. How does it feel to be back on your old stomping ground?
It feels really great to be back out here, growing up watching the fam play, and just watching them do a good job today, and knowing going on to do the next game is going to be a good game for them too.
Well, since you're a phenomenal athlete, what do you think of the young generational Rattlers that you see playing football today?
I think it's going to be great. You know, watching them grow up. I was in the locker room with them earlier, giving them a pep talk. So I think this season's going to be a good season and next season to come. We have some good athletes on the roster for years to come.
Can you give us a short tidbit of that pep talk you gave?
Hey, just use this game today for practice where it really means. And next weekend is going to really mean the Classic. That they go out there, they win, seal that victory, and they can move on to the next day.
All right, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the game. All right, back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Deja, and great get there as George Webb is brought down just short of the 6, so that'll bring up a crucial 4th down here for FAMU. Will they elect to go for it or punt it away? And it looks like Ryan Stanley and company are staying on the field. Do you like this call with Willie Simmons?
I'll tell you after this play.
It's a dangerous one, right? You got to hold your breath.
I love it.
Hold your breath for your boy, Deshaun Smith on the outside. Yes, sir.
All the way. And it's so funny that we were just interviewing Justin Gatlin, and then we see this sprint from Deshaun Smith, his second of the game. He is having a great night as the Rattlers explode for another big play into the end zone, 20-24.
Oh my goodness. So Justin Gatlin runs like a sub 9.7, just so you know. Right there, Deshaun Smith ate up a whole lot of yards in a short amount of time. I would have loved to have clocked that one.
With pads.
With pads on. That ain't easy to do, ladies and gentlemen. And the extra point attempt is good. So FAMU down by 3 as they're surging back after that 27-yard touchdown run from Deshaun Smith.
As they continue to clean up their act, it's only looking better and better going into this 4th. As I mentioned, they come out slow in the 1st, they come out slow in the 3rd. Doesn't seem to be the case tonight, but their strongest quarters are the 2nd and the 4th. So they're setting themselves up to put themselves in a position to win.
And one of the things we heard Coach Simmons tell Deja at the half was they needed to get back to fundamental football. And that's part of the 7 Fs when we talked to Coach Simmons at the start of the season about fundamentals is one of those 7 Fs. Fast. We just saw that on display right there from Deshaun Smith. Fun, fight. We're seeing that right now. Finish. And what did Greg Coleman say? FAMU, as well as faith.
As well as faith.
And the FAMU is real. The energy inside Bragg is real as the Marching 100 helping to get everybody going. Smiles on their faces. They see their team coming back. Here's
a big return.
A huge return from Tayshawn Baines. Holla at ya, boy.
Who does he do it for?
He says, I do it for the culture and everybody from Covington, Georgia.
And his teammates surround him with love. And how about that for an answer? Oh, you have a big play? Me too. Me too.
I love the old saying, anything that you could do, I could do it better. Tayshawn Baines one's up him right here.
Well, the Bulldogs have been barking for the vast majority of the time after the first quarter. But right there, they bit.
And a big miss there on the extra point. So a 9-point lead for South Carolina State on the road.
And that could be the determining factor of this game. And seeing that this Bulldog offense has been somewhat stifled. If they're not able to put any more points on the board, the Rattlers don't have to score two more touchdowns. All they have to do is score again and get themselves in field goal position.
Well, what a start to this third quarter,
yes,
huh? It started to really get juicy here midway through. We saw the touchdown run from Smith, answered very quickly by that kickoff return for a score from Baines.
Well, coming out of the break, Coach Buddy said, we have to continue to score. And right there, they did just that, 30 points, almost 2 times what they're averaging coming in. And we're set for kickoff. It's up and at 'em. And this is going to fall in the hands of Marcus Williams, who will return.
Can he answer? Oh, boy, he's got some room. He's got one man to beat, and he's tripped up just near midfield. A touchdown-saving tackle from the Bulldogs.
What is going on?
Special teams, and my goodness, there's some juice, some energy, some electricity flowing right now.
You know what? You know what it is? Ever since you started talking about all of the stars from HBCU football, and then Justin Gatlin got on camera with Deja Martin down there, guys have just been running around like crazy.
These young men are here to make a name for themselves. Stars shining bright tonight for both teams. Credit Colin Washington with that tackle.
Touchdown saving tackle.
That's a touchdown saving tackle for sure. And FAMU decides to spin a timeout. What's so interesting is this quarter started off with a 3-and-out possession from FAMU. On the punt, it was blocked. Touched a South Carolina State player, and then the
as well as
well, if you expected some fun and some high scoring, you got everything you wanted and more so far today. 51 points combined from these two teams, and we're still in the third.
Still in the third. Still a lot of explosive players on the field. We've seen Chad Hunter go down, but we also saw George Webb step out. And he had a big play himself. So there's no lack of talent on this field.
We couldn't get an update from the sideline. Not sure if Chad Hunter will be out for the rest of the game, but we assume he will be. And on 3rd and 2, it was Henrillas who was just bunched up there, just nowhere to go along the right side.
Players there weren't sure if Henrillas was down. Took the refs a while to blow the whistle, so that will not be a personal foul. Just a player trying to make a heads-up play. And it looks like the Rattlers will go for it again.
in nearly the same field position as last time.
All right, so just like last time, I'll wait to tell you if I like it after the play.
You got excited midway through the Sean Smith run. I'm not calling you out or nothing like that. Alfonso gunned over to the tight end, Taymel Christian. Solid throw there from Ryan Stanley, standing strong in this pocket.
And I'll tell you, having watched this guy, Taymel Christian, all year, that's only his 5th reception on the year, but he has good hands. As far as how often they throw it to him, he catches it whenever it's put in the position for him to.
Christian out of Orlando as Henrillas runs all around, but brought down in the backfield.
I would like to see Simmons and his offensive coordinator, Alex Jackson, go back to the little short passes that were helping them out earlier. Right here, they're trying to establish the running game.
There it is, quickly out to Henrillis, those extended runs, and Henrillis gets back to the line of scrimmage. That's now 3rd and 10 coming out.
Floated it a little bit more than I would have liked there. Gave the defender time to make up for it. Henrillis still got positive yardage back to the initial line of scrimmage.
But now 3rd and 10 from the 30. The pressure coming and quickly out, and it looked like Xavier Smith kind of collapsed down before he really got going. And we may very well see the kicking unit come on.
Seems that we will.
And so Ali on to attempt the field goal. And it's blocked. It was Lane Jones who got his hand on that one, and special teams coming through once again for the Bulldogs.
And Chris Fadul was the holder there, tried to scoop it up and score, but couldn't get anything going. And that's big. Would have knocked it down to a 6-point game. And now the Bulldogs have possession here on their 40.
Credit Lane Jones, the will linebacker for the Bulldogs. He got the penetration, got his hands up, and blocked that field goal.
Special teams for the Bulldogs is definitely putting their footprint in this game. See a blitz coming from the... Oh, there it is. There it is.
So elusive is Tyrese Nick, because he is just so dangerous with his feet. Do you have a man just key in on him in that 2nd or 3rd level?
Yeah, you need a spy almost every play. As long as it's not a run, just have somebody keep an eye on them right there. They were ready for that play. The safety blitzed in the direction they were going and everything, but he's able to see that, reverse field, and pick up 9 yards.
They decide to stay on the ground. Omar Cummings right up the middle and gashing this defense as he gets to the 3rd level. So that 2nd and 1 run moves the chains for a 1st down.
Seems that the Bulldogs are attempting to establish what they established in the 1st quarter again. The defense had done a great job of making the adjustments to hold them up. But after that big run by Nick, they don't know what they expect anymore.
Nick, little juke move to the outside and pushed out by Andrew Hines. But this is all a la what we saw from South Carolina State in that 1st half. They have been able to drive on this FAMU defense quite well.
And converting on 3rd downs and sometimes here and there 4th downs. And what that means is they're facing a tired defense out there who's been out there for a long time.
Looks to be some movement up front, no penalty called. Surveying the field, nowhere to go. And a penalty flag comes out as Rodriguez Thomas was the intended target. And that's probably going to be a pass interference call that will give them a fresh set of downs.
It looked like a blatant hold in the backfield for the Bulldogs, and then just a few guys stopped, and then he threw it. And Herman Jackson thought the play was over. Last second, grabbed him. This is a tough play for the Rattlers there.
Prior to the pass, holding. Defense, number 24. 10-yard penalty for the previous spot, automatic 1st down.
My apologies, not a pass interference, but a hold there. That gives the Bulldogs an automatic 1st down, and they're creeping towards the red zone again. Seems like they've been there all day long.
30 points. So let's see what this is about. I don't see any defensive linemen pointing at the O-line. So.
No, they definitely jumped along that Rattler D-line. And so a free play, but before they could really get it going, they whistled it dead.
Offside. Defense, number 93. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Still, first down.
The nose guard from Tampa, DeMontre Moore, was the man offsides.
That's going to set up 2nd and 5. Very manageable for this Bulldog offense. As they'll survey the field. Rattlers are showing blitz.
And the toss out to the outside is Jenkins. And quickly they pick up an easy 5 yards and more, and another first down.
That was what seemed to be a hold on the outside of that play. Another no call. Bulldogs may be getting lucky here.
And where are the holes that you've seen in the defense for FAMU?
The holes?
Holes, like
okay.
H-O-L-E-S.
Whenever they break past that initial line of scrimmage, the linemen are coming up to serve as linemen to fill holes. So then after that,
dangerous here with Tyrese Nick. He was eyeing the end zone and wrapped up by Antonio Miller and company. And now with just about 15 seconds to go in the third quarter, we'll see if they try to hurry up and get it going, or will they just be content to let the clock wind down and move to the opposite field for the final period.
And
end of the third quarter. Media timeout.
That's what they'll do. So an important fourth quarter coming up as the Bulldogs are moving.
Your team, your card. Get yours at discover.com/NHL.
Tiffany Green, Alfonso Barber back with you from the campus of Florida A&M University. And the Bulldogs have led this entire way. They have an opportunity to punch it in once more as they're down to the 1-yard line. They have been complete control, really getting things done on the ground. And quickly swallowed up in the backfield. Derek Mayweather, who we said his name a lot in the first half, coming up with the big stop there, brings up third down.
Yep, he's leading this defense right now as a leader. Just showing up when he needs to show up right there. Big play. They sent in big number 75 to clog the hole, but big number 52 got there first.
Important third down coming up for this defense to make sure that South Carolina State doesn't extend their lead. And Tyrese Nick looking to go all the way. He jumps into the end zone. Does he cross the pylon? And they say yes. He's in for the score. What an athletic play on the outside, as it looked like the Rattler defender may have had an angle.
Doesn't seem to be any contemplation. The refs are gathered around over there.
Yep. I think he goes over. So it looked like Andrew Hines had an angle. He made a step up and may have hesitated a little bit, took away that path. And Tyrese Nick, we've seen his athleticism all game long, selling out right there.
That's the direct effect of being a dual threat, because what Hines had to do there was respect the pass, at the same time try and make a play on the run, and he couldn't do both.
37-21.
I'll tell you, Tiffany, you can feel the energy just rush out of the stadium. It just went really quiet right after that touchdown.
And really, the Bulldogs have made it happen on the ground. You talk about one-dimensional in the stat category. This is a group more than 280 yards on the ground. 77 passing yards to compare.
77, and they're going up against a balanced offense. So you would think, looking at the statistics, that FAMU has the upper hand, but no, their running game has just been that dominant today.
Still time left for FAMU, but their road all the more complicated now with a 16-point deficit. And it makes you ask the question, going into next weekend against your big rival, knowing that a chance to go to the Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl on the line, as well as at least a share of the MEAC title, will they be able to work out some of their kinks as the up man receives this one? It's Doyle Grimes.
Played patty cake a little bit there with it, but it ultimately got it. Picked up about 7, but in order for them to win this game, or at least even get back into it, they have to use at least 6, if not all of the Fs. They have to finish fast, fight. I don't know about fun. You may have to throw that out the window right now. Be focused, assignment football, like Simmons said.
Yeah, but sometimes when you're talking about fun, you can get in your head too much, and it takes the fun away because you're thinking so much about what you have to do, and that tightens you up a little bit, as opposed to playing loose and free and having a good time while you're doing it.
Great point, man. And when you say that, all of the great athletes, even up to the NFL level, they're able to make a play and be able to celebrate that moment and be free and loose in that. So, yeah, you're right. Don't get too caught up in your head. But at the same time, you're down 21-37. You have to make something happen. 21-37, 14-20 left in the fourth. We're setting up for first down as the Bulldogs run out on defense, and Ryan Stan, the man, trots out to lead his offense to hopefully a first down and then ultimately a touchdown. In the backfield, we have Deshaun Smith and Marcus Williams in the receiving group, as well as Xavier Smith. So let's see if we see an explosive play or another handoff.
219 yards racked up in the passing game for Ryan Stanley, but he's got to be able to connect with his targets early and often, and that pass may have been deflected, and it's intercepted. The defense for the Bulldogs coming up in a big way, and guess who? It's your boy, Alex Brown.
I know it was eating him up that he missed the one earlier. I know he still wants to, but hey, he has 2 interceptions now in as many weeks, and his teammates are running out on the field to celebrate that man who's had a spectacular game here tonight. Helmet off, he's over there talking to the crowd.
And really in all facets of the game, Alfonso, from your perspective, what have you gathered about this offense and defense and really overall this Bulldog football team?
Perseverance. They've faced some adversities on some drives, or some adversity on drives, and they haven't let it get to them. Like you said, actually, having fun. In tight situations where you get too caught up in your head, they haven't let that happen. As there's a handoff. Doesn't go for much. We haven't said that often tonight.
And this is a FAMU defense who is used to giving up just about 183 yards on the ground. And tonight, South Carolina State is closing in on 300.
And you have to chalk a lot of it up to the quarterback, but the strange thing is this isn't their first time seeing a dual-threat quarterback.
No, and on the spot there is Quan Caldwell. One of the first times tonight we've called his name, the 5th-year senior.
Okay.
And to be careful, you want to make sure that this isn't a letdown for your seniors who are playing for the last time in Bragg Memorial Stadium, as Tyrese Nix somehow able to avoid tackles, and he's down to the 2-yard line.
Okay, and what we're going to do now is visit one of the reasons why the Rattler offense is struggling, and go down to Deja and see what's going on with Chad. Deja?
All right, guys, like a quick update about Chad. He has a deep bone bruise, and it looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the game. However, very positive he's going to make an easy come for the rest of the season. So, fortunately, we won't see any more of him tonight, but we'll see more of him to come. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Deja. We appreciate that. And during that report, South Carolina State found the end zone, a penalty marker on the field as we take a replay as Jarius Jenkins in for the score.
As we try and figure out what's going on with that.
Perhaps some extracurricular activity after the touchdown score.
So we wait for that, but back to what Deja said, Chad Hunter will not be returning to this game, so they need other receivers to step up.
Result of the play, touchdown. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct. South Carolina State for an orchestrated celebration. That 15-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff. We'll play the try.
So now South Carolina State spreads this lead out to 22, could be 23 after this PA attempt. And they do so. Well, I tell you, Florida A&M fans are shocked right now as we step aside and take a break here from Bragg.
New NyQuil Severe with Vicks VapoCool, the vaporizing, nighttime coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine.
Having a good time in the stands, as I don't think many saw this coming, and certainly FAMU, who has had a red-hot season, really turned things around under first-year head coach Willie Simmons, en route to perhaps their second home loss of the season. If things hold as they are, or perhaps they can turn it around, Marcus Williams can be a big part of that. So the Rattlers start with good field position after the excessive celebration penalty went against South Carolina State on that kickoff.
And a Bulldog hobbled off the field at the end of that again. Seems like every time there's a tackle on that side of the field on special teams, somebody's injured. But ultimately, he gets up and walks it off. Marcus Williams is really trying to electrify this team. At this point, there's 12 minutes and 50 seconds left. This is where you stand up on the pride and you represent your seniors.
And I think it's important to note, as we've said already in the broadcast, is Henrillis getting out to a first down run. That this game, although this is a MEAC opponent in South Carolina State, it does not count towards a conference game because of the departure of Hampton. And if you're Willie Simmons in this team, as just Xavier Smith and Ryan Stanley not on the same page, Smith didn't even anticipate that one coming. You can't look to next weekend, and I think perhaps after that Howard game, knowing that so much was on the line, they drop it there. They could come back home, but it's not a conference game. And after Bethune-Cookman took care of business at against North Carolina Central on Thursday, you know that they're motivated. And this FAMU team may have had a hangover and may have been looking ahead.
May have been right there, Xavier Smith corralling the catch, but ultimately you're right. Willie Simmons can preach that message all he wants to, but it's up to the guys to whether or not they're going to accept it. And it seems like they didn't this week, but they could spin this next week with it leaving a bad taste in their mouth and use it for motivation.
And Ryan Stanley rushed out the pocket, and he scampers. And a late flag, or a flag coming in for the late hit on Stanley.
Turns a 1-yard gain and a third down into a first down. And the Rattlers have converted every time they visited the red zone this evening, will now be in the red zone.
Personal foul. Late hit out of bounds. Defense, number 45. Half distance to goal, automatic, first down.
And let's be clear that with 11:56 remaining and the Rattlers now with an opportunity to put some points on the board here. This game still far from over. They've got their work cut out for him, though, as DJ Phillips, first time we're seeing him come in under center.
And this guy is no scrub. After this play, I'll give you a little bit more information about DJ.
Local product out of Rickards High School. Smith in motion, the jet sweep.
A lot of energy from him exploding to the sideline. But some more information on DJ Phillips. He was a first-team All-Big Bend quarterback as a senior in 2016. Led that Rickards team to their first district championship in 15 years. They then advanced to the third round of the playoffs for the first time in school history. So he has winning in his blood, and he has a repertoire with Chad Hunter, Ferrante Coward, and Kelly Kendrick, receivers on this Florida A&M team.
And what he's trying to do on this drive is lead them to 7 points. And Rillis trying to make some moves and brought down by a few Bulldogs.
Well, maybe to serve as a decoy as he'll jog back off after 2 handoffs. Stanley will come back on, and it's about 3rd and 6. The Rattlers are up against, are threatening to not convert on their, on this time.
So 3rd and 5, and it looks like there's some confusion as BJ Phillips is running back onto the field with Ryan Stanley already in shotgun. So Phillips to the right of him, and that's awkward as we see the lineup, and that didn't catch anybody off guard. Maybe some miscommunication on that play call altogether. That's 4th down now.
And now DJ Phillips will come back off the field.
And at this point, of course, you have to go for it this close to the end zone.
Fourth and 6. Not impossible.
That play whistle dead. Good look there at Mr. and Mrs. FAMU.
Prior to the snap, false start. Offense, number 69. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Still, 4th down.
That pushes the Rattlers back, and not the way you want to go.
But the way that it has been for the majority of this game. 4th and 6, you're in the red zone. A time where you really don't need a penalty, and that's the time that they usually get theirs.
Stanley standing tall, and good pass break up there from Dwayne Nichols.
These defensive backs are showing up and showing out for the Bulldogs here today, starting with Alex Brown.
Media timeout.
He's been contagious here tonight.
So media timeout is taken on the field.
New Dayquil Severe with Vicks VapoCool. The daytime coughing, stuffy head, vaporize your cold medicine.
Back here at Bragg Memorial Stadium, the campus of Florida A&M University. South Carolina State with a convincing 44-21 lead over Florida A&M.
And you know they're going to continue to do what they've done the majority of this game anyway, run the football. And that's going to work against them in 2 ways. Gaining yards, or work against the Rattlers, that is, gaining yards and wasting time off of the clock.
So just enjoying the sounds here. A 2nd and 10. Nick makes the call. Hands it off. Hard running up ahead.
Gains a few extra yards with the help of his teammates. And just a quick fact, regardless of what's going on with the Rattlers tonight, this year's 5-0 start in MEAC play is the first for the Rattlers since 1996, which is not only the year that they went unbeaten in conference play, 7-0, also the year I was born. And
And that puts it in perspective.
While South Carolina State is at the line of scrimmage. Thank you.
So a ban warning for the Rattlers, and we've seen this rule change over time where they ask the opposing band not to play during the opponent's possession.
At this point, the Rattlers need all the help they can get.
And that play whistle dead. That's so funny you said that. 1996, the year you were born.
Yes.
I remember those Rattler football years quite vividly. My sister had just graduated from FAMU. I would come in a few years later. That was the Billy Joe era.
Offside. Defense, number 9. 5 yards from the previous spot. Still, third down.
Those were some good years, some very good years. I remember a very excitable.
First down.
All right, Rory Bernard's got it out. I'm gonna keep going. In Patrick Bonner, and then later Quinn Gray. And that was the last time that I remember Florida A&M actually making it to the FCS playoffs. Was back during the Quinn Gray era.
And Willie Simmons is here to return them.
He's off to a tremendous start. No matter what the outcome of the season, they will have their first winning season in 7 years, which is quite impressive. And you think about the turnaround that he has done here in Tallahassee, much as he did at Prairie View in the SWAC. Spent 3 seasons there, was 21-11, made them a true contender. And he's done an amazing job here with the Rattlers.
I agree.
And let's not forget, still tied for first place in the MEAC and a chance to go on to the Celebration Bowl if they win next week. The Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl if they win next week.
Offense, number 56. 5 yards penalty, still. Second down.
Against Bethune. What I'm most looking forward to, as Jay Walker and myself will be covering the game for ESPN next week, is the fact that that crowd is about to be all the way live.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And this one is one of the more competitive ones going in as far as the outlook. FAMU, for the past 7 years, you mentioned not having a winning season in 7 years. FAMU hasn't beaten Bethune in 7 years. So as that run goes nowhere as well. Willie Simmons has already turned the program into a winning program. He can also reverse the narrative that's been going on for 7 years in that rivalry.
Well, yeah, because you know what's important. You know, like at the end of the season, you have to beat your rival. And so North Carolina Central has played spoiler to North Carolina A&T. Obviously, Bethune-Cookman has really won that battle, although FAMU owns that series historically, and we're just seeing a ton of laundry continue to go on to the field. So they're going forward to go back, to go forward to go back.
Offside. Defense, number 75. 5 yards penalty, still. Third down.
And I think at this point there's just a little frustration there, you know, from the Rattlers. But Camping World Stadium is about to be packed with orange and green and maroon and gold. The trash talking has already started, but it's about to ratchet up another level this next week.
It never stops in reference to that rivalry. It's year-long, but around this time it gets really heavy, as you mentioned. A throw and a drop.
The pass is incomplete.
Quick in and out. So that brings up 4th down for the Bulldogs, and they'll punt it away.
21-44, still the score, 6:30 left. The Bulldogs about to punt on 4th and 5. And back to field the punt will be Orlando McKinley. Had a few big returns here today. Let's see if he can make something happen here. And going back to Camping World Stadium, I'm looking forward to those bands as well. I know they have something cooking up. Those directors, just so they can. delay of game?
Yeah.
Okay, as they want to do a little trash talking themselves. So.
Donovan Wells for the Marching Wildcats and Dr. Shelby Chipman for the Marching 100. And right now in the undefeated HBCU band rankings, they have Bethune-Cookman in as number 1. Florida A&M's Marching 100 not even on the list. And we'll talk about your thoughts about those HBCU band rankings when we come back.
And vaporize it with an intense rush of Vicks Vapors. New Dayquil Severe with Vicks VapoCool. The daytime coughing, stuffy head, vaporize your cold medicine.
Back here at Bragg, and DJ Phillips back in at quarterback for the Rattlers. So before we went to break, we talked about the HBCU band rankings as given by the undefeated Bethune-Cookman coming in at number 1. Number 2, Tennessee State, the aristocrat of bands, North Carolina A&T's Blue and Gold Sound Machine, rounding out the top 3. And then how about the Sonic Boom of the South, Jackson State. And number 5 is Morgan State. As I mentioned, Florida A&M University not on that list. The Marching 100, in your mind, disrespected, Alfonso?
I'm surprised, first and foremost. At whom I should be undefeated, you're defeated. That's one loss in your book. The Marching 100, the incomparable band of the land. I don't know who. I don't know. I'm surprised.
Take it back as George Webb picks up the first down. But all of that can be put on display, and you, the viewer, can make your decision and perhaps weigh in on the undefeated HBCU band rankings next weekend at the Florida Classic.
As there's another big play that will result in a first down that time. It's number 25 for the Rattlers.
Devin Bowers.
And Devin Bowers is
one of the seniors on this team, one of 16 here for senior night. Hasn't necessarily gone the way that perhaps he would have liked.
He's a part of that deep backfield, and as DJ slings it left-handed.
Southpaw gets it out.
Doc Lucky on the reception, just short of a first down. But Devin Bowers is a part of that group that was expected to be the headliners, but Bishop Bonnet and Deshaun Smith sort of stole the show. Not sort of, they stole the show.
Greg Webb quickly met in the backfield by number 26, the true freshman, Jaden Brunson. And as it looks like this game will hold as is, you look at the schedule, we talk about Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M will play in the Florida Classic next weekend. For South Carolina State, their season will be extended by one game. They will host Savannah State and then close out the year the week Saturday after Thanksgiving against North Carolina Central. That game was supposed to be played earlier in the year, but it had to be moved after Hurricane Michael affected several games. Third year in a row that hurricanes have jeopardized the Bulldogs' schedule.
And the Rattlers here in Tallahassee weren't completely unaffected by that either, as Phillips pitches it out for a short game. 24 hours after securing a win in Greensboro, North Carolina, members of the FAMU football team split up to travel and help Hurricane Michael relief efforts in both Havana, Florida and Marianna, Florida. And that's a part of the 5 Fs that Willie Simmons is stressing to this team.
Well, certainly they were able to get out and help those who were affected by Hurricane Michael, in just a way to show that, you know, FAMU cares as a part of that mantra throughout the university.
And South Carolina State being more affected by it so much so that they couldn't or play the game and had to postpone. They definitely want to show up and show out for their fans in that game against NCAT.
So the air has just kind of been sucked out of Bragg Memorial Stadium really since the start of this game, and it looked like there was a turn of the tide. The Rattlers got within 3, but I think one of those key possessions after the Deshaun Smith touchdown run was the quick answer on the next play on that kickoff return from Tayshawn Baines, who carries the ball here.
It's kind of like when you underestimate your little brother and he gets you with the little crossover or something, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to stop playing with you. And that kickoff return just took the rest, it seems, the rest of what the Rattlers had out of him.
Well, not the way these seniors would have liked to see their final home game come to an end in Bragg.
But they do have an opportunity to make it up. This is a senior group who has not beaten Bethune-Cookman the whole time that they've been here, and they have an opportunity to change that next week.
And a win there would send them to the Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl. They would then await the winner of the SWAC championship on December 1st. We talked about a couple of contenders with, of course, Grambling State down this year after making it to the Celebration Bowl for 2 consecutive seasons. They won the Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl in 2016 before seeing it snatched away last year by North Carolina A&T. And when you look at just the prominence of programs over the years, you look to South Carolina State and North Carolina A&T. The Bulldogs have won the most MEAC championships. Excuse me, North Carolina A&T. Excuse me, let me go back. South Carolina State has won the most MEAC championships in 16. North Carolina A&T right behind them at 9. And not to flinch though, FAMU for a long time was right there and was the team to be feared and revered. You go back to 1978, that national championship team, and we were just talking with Albert Chester, part of the radio broadcast here for Florida A&M, and just what that meant. And you heard Greg Coleman on the field talking to Deja about Rudy Hubbard, who was the head coach at the time, one of those men who helped shape and turn his life around, a very proud legacy, heritage, and tradition here. And Willie Simmons looks to have the Rattlers moving in the right direction.
He has one of the most important qualities in the coach that to date that I've seen from my time as a kid all the way up through my playing years. You have to be a good person first. And when you're that, you can reach kids, or in this case, these young men in areas where just simply being a coach wouldn't work.
Yeah, he takes that faith component really seriously. Several of his players have been baptized this season as South Carolina State spends a timeout. But it seems like he is the coach for now for FAMU. And he went through a lull, a period where they just weren't winning and couldn't seem to get the recruits that they were, looking or hoping for. But now, with the enthusiasm that Willie Simmons brings, of course, he is no stranger to the Big Bend area, having grown up in Quincy, played his college ball at Clemson, wanted to come here at FAMU for a little bit, but ended up his graduate year at the Citadel. He knows this area. He knows this fan base. He knows the alumni.
And he knows what it takes to be successful. He's played, and that's another aspect of a coach that players really respect. You got out and you did what I did as well, as George Webb goes for another run. This time picking up about 4, almost 5. But Willie Simmons is just not just in the personal or in the immediate personal, on social media. You're teaching millennials now, guys who need to see a certain swagger, and I think he has that. He takes accountability, a problem coaches in the past with this program may not have. As Devin Powers breaks for a big one, the heart and soul of this team isn't completely gone. As number 25 streaks down the field, big game, and that'll help their rushing category for tonight.
But also just the coaching staff that he's built around him. You know, the legendary Billy Roll, great Rattler career here, played under Rudy Hubbard as a defensive back, and spent a lot of time in South Florida, Ice Harris as well. So he's got a good group of coaches around him who share his same mindset, as South Carolina State will walk out of Bragg Stadium and leave Florida's capital city with a victory, a convincing 44-21 win over the top team in the conference.
And to put it simply, what may have happened is they were still on that hangover. They were looking towards next week, like you said, and that's how you come in and you lose by 20-plus points.
It was a great showing for the Bulldogs, but certainly some things that the Rattlers will look to tune up before next week's Florida Classic, as a shot to the Air Force Reserve Celebration Bowl and a MEAC title.
And should the Rattlers clinch that MEAC title, it would make first-year head coach Willie Simmons just the second FAMU head coach to capture that league title in his first year.
So a lot on the line next week, as senior night is in the books. 16 seniors playing their final game in Bragg Memorial Stadium, as we send it down to Deja Martin on the field.
All right, congratulations, Coach. Couple of questions. It was a tough, slow season for you guys in the beginning, and then towards the end you picked up momentum. So how big was this win for you tonight?
Well, it was big. It gives us a chance to continue to have a winning season. At that point, you know, you just kind of see if you can be better each week, and you know, that's kind of what's happened. We continue to improve, and it's been a lot of fun seeing our kids hang in there and, you know, get to the point where you see what you saw tonight.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Coach. Once again, congratulations. Enjoy your evening. All right, back to you guys pretty soon. I'll have Coach Willie Simmons, so stay tuned.
All right, thanks so much. And Buddy Pugh, as we mentioned, longtime coach in the MEAC, 17 seasons, 4 decades overall as a player and a coach with his alma mater, South Carolina State. And he's got a really young crop of guys, but what he says he's most excited about is the fact that they keep him young. There's a lot that he can build on from now to next year or whenever, but you've seen them progressively get better, and their record indicates that, as Deja alluded to, slow start, but they've won 4 of their last 5 games with 2 remaining on the schedule.
And I think it's just a part of coach continuing over the progress of, as the season progresses, he's just continuously bought over his players, and sometimes that takes some time to happen. As it took some time with Willie Simmons here, just not as long, and then they went on a big winning streak. But again, we were talking about it before. As long as you have a coach, the head, everyone else follows behind.
And so as folks file out of Bragg Memorial Stadium, we see the head coach, Willie Simmons, approaching our Deja Martin and cameras, and we'll be very curious to hear what he has to say to Deja as we toss it down to her now.
All right, thank you so much, Coach, for joining me. What are some takeaways from tonight that you're going to use in next week's Cup of Weekend?
Well, you can't play the way we play and expect to beat anybody. Our good football teams will beat anybody. Just too many penalties, too many misassignments on both sides, in all 3 phases. You know, we got a lot of work to do. And as coaching staff, it's our responsibility to get these guys ready to play. It starts with me and trickles down to the assistant coaches. So we got to look ourselves in the mirror as coaches and figure out what we're doing wrong the last couple of weeks. We got 7 days to get it fixed.
All right, Coach. Well, good luck to you guys, and we'll see you at the Classic.
Thank you.
All right, that's all I have for you guys tonight. Glad you were here to stay with us in the game. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm Deja Martin.
All right, thanks so much, Deja. We appreciate it, being able to grab both coaches. And as Willie Simmons says, 7 days, 1 week to fix whatever they need to fix going into the final weekend of the regular season for the Rattlers. Your final thoughts, Alfonso?
My final thoughts is, he said it starts with me, and it does. I'm confident that this guy's going to get his team together and come out and put up a really hard-fought game against BCU.
We appreciate you being here. We say so long from Bragg.